most talked about program. New Liquid Trail, the extra rich liquid shampoo that leaves your hair looking radiantly alive, brings you This Is Your Life. Now here he is, Mr. This Is Your Life himself, Ralph Edwards.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to This Is Your Life. Well, I wonder how many of you out there in our audience have had misfortune and promised yourselves that if only I can get over this, if I can just get over this, I'll do everything I can to help others like me. But when the trial is past, the misfortune is past, the vow is all too often forgotten. Well, here in our audience at the NBC Theater in Hollywood tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a person who, while suffering untold misfortune, made a vow and is keeping that vow. To that person's great surprise, I'd like to say tonight, this is your life, Mrs. Julia Judge of Washington, D.C. Mrs. Judge, this is a thrill we've been waiting for a long time. And, well, tell us, what brings you to Hollywood? That's a silly question at a time like this. It is? Well, of course, your conference was with the St. Anne's Foundation over here. What is St. Anne's?
Really a very wonderful place. I had an opportunity to have lunch and visit, go to the hospital, and what they're doing, all of you who are listening sincerely, if you have dimes or dollars, please give it. I mean that.
That's typical of this lady. We didn't know she was going to make a plea right off, but this lady's life is in helping others, and giving to others. I hardly need tell you that we had somewhat of a part in getting you out here to visit St. Anne's Foundation. Yes. Our good thanks to you, Colonel John Hinkle of Washington, D.C. Thank you, Colonel, for helping us bring this surprise here to Mrs. Judge. Yes, come on out here. You brought Mrs. Judge all the way from Washington, too. He's the culprit who helped us with this.
I'm going to murder him when I get
Well, now, Colonel, you and I very proudly escort this fine lady to our chair of honor, Mrs. Judge. Let America hear the story of a woman whose life was so harsh as a homeless child. She turned all her strength when she had the chance of helping homeless children and others in need. Will you do us the honor, Ms. Judge? All right, thank you. And while we're on our way, here is Bob Warren with a word about new Liquid Trail shampoo that's going to sound mighty sweet to all you girls. Here's Miss Julia Judge, ladies and gentlemen. I'll go around on the side. Just sit down. Well, now, while you were down in the audience there, and I was down there sort of looking around, did you have any idea it was going to be you?
No, I wouldn't have been here.
You wouldn't have been here, you know?
No,
That shows that you're a very humble person, what we've been told, too. Do you mind, though, that being here, that this is your life tonight?
yes, you do the Colonel Hinkle.
Yes, Colonel Hinkle had a lot to do with it, and by reliving your life with you, Mrs. Judge, we can open one heart and get one person to do more for homeless children. It'll be worthwhile. Don't you think so?
I'm sure of that.
Yes. Then do we have your permission to turn back the pages to your childhood?
You may.
Thank you, Mrs. Julia Judge, Washington, D.C. This is your life. This is the dark journey of a little girl born in the coal mining area of Pennsylvania. What town was that, Mr. Judge?
Orion, Pennsylvania.
Orient. Like any little girl, you want only to give and to receive love. The sunlight of your mother's smile, the warmth of her arms are yours, but all too briefly. Within 1 month, the lives of 4 of your brothers and sisters are wiped out by diphtheria. It's too much for your mother. Holding you close, your father, Michael DeGlimio, tries to explain to you that Mama was too tired, ill, to live any longer. You find solace in your love for your mother, your sister Vilma, and your brother, Joe. Dad takes you to church each Sunday. At age 7, you lose your sister, Doma. How was that, Miss Judge?
Well, she burned to death. Her dress was caught afire while I was out. It was early in the morning, and we heard the screaming, and we returned. Well, she was all in a flame, and of course died a few hours later.
When you're about 9, another day of terror comes. Coal miner, your father, he's brought home, hopelessly beaten. What had happened to him?
Well, it seemed that he went to visit a friend, and on his way home, he was beaten and tied to a tombstone in a cemetery. And he had gone unconscious for 2 weeks. When he regained consciousness by the 12 and 2 side, he said he was going to die. And he would die if I made a promise that I would never get trouble. God would never forget me. With that, he died.
You've remembered those words. And your older brother, Joe, had by now gone into the Army. What happened to you and little brother Mike?
We were separate, and of course, my younger brother was being kept by different people, and I just drifted from home to home, and one that would take care of him.
At the very beginning, he was taken one way, you another. But your bewilderment and shock only increase. Michael, as we say, is taken somewhere. You're placed in the county orphan home. And now you're kin to all who are forsaken and forlorn. You really know what happens to the heart of a child when a door like that closes behind you, don't you? At this time, your older brother Joe, in the Army, hears what has happened. And what did he do, Miss Judge?
Well, of course, the American Red Cross got in touch with him, and he came home and took me out of it. It wasn't in child orphanage, it was the Homes and Ages in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, where I was taken out, and my brother placed me in charge of other people.
You're put in care of some farmers. Did the farmers keep you long?
No, it seems really and truly nobody loved me too much. I stayed there a while, and very shortly I was reported that I wasn't going to school. So I was taken out of school and put into another home and drifted from one place to another. So finally I was placed under the care of another family.
You go from hand to hand, the weight of a little girl, overworked, mistreated. By chance you learn where your little brother Mike is, and you go there.
That is right, yes.
I remember Avril, and seeing you, Julia, standing with your hands raised, pleading, I want to live with my little brother. Please let me live here with my brother.
That's my brother Mike.
You know that voice all right, Julia. Yes, we fixed it so that he could get off from his job as a milk route man with the Thompson's Honor Dairy in Washington, D.C. Here he is since Joe's death, the only living survivor of your family, the only surviving member of your family, your brother, Mike Glimio. Here he is. Go ahead, just sit down there, Mike, and right on the arm here. How old were you and Julia when she found you,
I
Mike?
was about 7, she was about 10 or 11.
Huh? What are some of your memories of the way these people worked, Julia?
She worked like a horse in the field, cutting corn, husking corn, and very little food we had to eat. And she was worn out at all times from work, overwork.
I understand that these people would often send you to the pasture with the cows, giving you nothing to take along to eat for the day. What did you eat at times like that, Julia?
Green peaches.
Green peaches?
Green peaches.
Find them in the field.
That's correct.
They mistreat you too, Mike, so that you run away at 15. But much worse is to happen to Julia before that. This looks good, doesn't she?
She sure does.
She sure does. You're going to see her later at the party. You're going to have a lot of fun. Thanks, brother Mike Glimio. In your lonely childhood, Julia, you lived among strangers, nearly 20 different homes. You slept in wagons and sheds, taking the name of anyone who would give you something to eat. The first break from utter misery, the first smile of true friendship comes into your life when you're 12 or 13. Taken into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Ben Bortz of Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
How did you know that?
Oh, I'm telling you what.
That is right.
Well, there's much of your life that, of course, we don't know, that you have to fill in, you know, bit by bit because of your being away so much there. But you do housework for this kind people.
I worked upstairs for conference, Julia. Remember, many evenings I spent with you and abortus baby.
But Anna?
You haven't heard the voice in 30 years. Anna, yes. You've written to each other, but this is the first reunion in 30 years. She was Ann Kovac, your first friend, now married and here from her home in Masontown, Pennsylvania, Mrs. John Ledrosky. Ann Kovac Ledrosky. Come on out here, girls, so we can talk.
Oh, Anna, how wonderful.
Must have been wonderful for you, Julia, at long last, to have had a friend like Ann. Like all girls do, I suppose you two talked about clothes. Is that right,
I
Ann?
can remember how happy Julie was when Mrs. Ford gave her some clothes to wear.
And believe me, it was a party dress with a lot of beads, and I went to church in that dress thinking I looked wonderful.
There was a reason Julia could never buy herself any clothes, wasn't there, Ann?
Yes, there was. There was a man who had her brother in his clutches and would come and take her pay away from her.
That's right, 6 months, at least 6 months in advance of my own salary.
Ann, you got married that year and wanted Julia to be your bridesmaid. What did Julia say to that?
She said she couldn't get a dress to be a bridesmaid, but she would come as a waitress, and she did. We had a wonderful time and plenty to eat.
Thank you, Miss John Ledrosky of Masontown, Pennsylvania. And you'll see her later. These happier days are to prove only temporary. But you're grateful indeed for a few clean clothes to wear. As a little girl, you'd worn only the rags and tatters of cast-off clothing, except that one time you were just telling about, and someone gave you an old discarded evening dress. What was that situation?
A beaded evening gown, which I wore to church. I was the greatest spectacle. In fact, I thought people were admiring me. They were kidding, laughing about it.
Well, the people may have stared, but I'm sure the good Lord smiled to see a little girl coming to church in a grown-up evening dress. But a starved heart needs friendship more than a clean dress.
Remember, you came